Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Apologies if I sound a bit strange for this, as I've just recently returned from my holiday at Metal Paradise and I am recovering from some injuries. Nothing too serious, don't worry about that, it's just I've not had a mosh pit in about 2 years and I took well advantage of that. But let's not waste any more time and jump into the video, shall we? So, the Warhammer series has been going on for about 5 years now, and we've seen a lot of characters being introduced in the form of base game, DLC or FLC content. We're expecting that Game 3 will have around 5 years or so worth of content, and with that we'll see a large amount of characters hopefully being introduced. Hopefully as many different fan favorites as possible and less ghosts. So let's take the time to talk about some of the most anticipated characters that many of us are expecting to join the game series in Warhammer 3. Boris Todbringer is one of those characters that the fan base has been actively requesting for quite some time now, the Elector Count of Midland with his own special units known as the Midland Forces. While in truth he is already in-game with his own unique model, he is not properly playable as he does not have his own faction start, special quest items, and well, pretty much anything that basically makes a legendary lord a legendary lord. Despite the fact that he's been requested so heavily, Creative Assembly have yet to properly implement him, and in truth, he should have been implemented before as a FLC, at least with the Silence and the Fury, as it kinda makes sense to add in Boris with a Beastmen DLC. An FLC character like that would have been absolutely wonderful, as they could have it in a similar sense as Striker, but still we're waiting, and it's not really clear why. Yes, the Imperial troops of Midland would be very different to that of the standard state troopers that we're already using, but in most cases they were pretty much designed to be reskins anyway. Now, a lot of people are starting to believe the reason why we haven't seen Boris just yet, or better yet said, getting his time under the spotlight, is because there are some theories that Warhammer 3 will focus very heavily on a more thematic type of campaign, very similar to that of the Vortex, but much more so, considering that Midland itself is so important in the grand scheme of things due to the whole Flame of Ulrich. They are probably waiting for a proper Chaos versus Empire campaign to be able to justify bringing him in as an FLC Lord. Next, Valkyrie the Bloody. So this is a character which is very close to being a demon princess, but should more be referred to as a demon kin. That's pretty much the step right below demon prince or demon princess. Valkyrie is a staunch fighter of Khorne, often referred to as the bride of the blood god. She is a character who is very devoted to the blood god Khorne, not even being able to be swayed by the powers of Slaanesh. Long ago she was mortal but had been killed and ripped apart, and in his anger, Khorne had found her body and reshaped her and brought her back to life. She is a character that is heavily requested from the fanbase, and it's very likely that we will see her soon enough. Whether in the form of a DLC or FLC is unknown, but I'm assuming that she will be a legendary lord and not a legendary hero, and we still don't know if she'll follow Khorne's specific faction or be in the Warriors of Chaos faction if we ever get some cross-game DLC for them. From blood to blood, let's start looking towards Neferata. Neferata is an ancient vampire, one of the strongest and one of the very first. At this point in the timeline, she's actually very active as she is trying to regain her former lands of Lemia whilst also building up her forces around the Silver Pinnacle. She's got spies around most nations in the known world and is keeping a close eye on any potential threats, allies, and, well, anything that will suit her needs and purpose. She's very highly requested due to the fact that she is very different to that of the Von Carsteins, and it would probably herald the time that we'll start seeing DLC to focus around all the different bloodlines and not be carbon copies of each other, as right now we only have necromancers and Von Carsteins. Since her heavy network of spies and very similar mechanics that we've already seen throughout Three Kingdoms with Cao Cao, it's very likely that her campaign will focus around a lot of diplomacy in various different ways, shapes and forms, and it could implement a new, completely different style of playstyle. It's very strange that we've yet yet to see her in the Warhammer series, considering that her 2 bases of operation are now active within the Warhammer game, and it looked like they were pushing for that, possibly for a future FLC if that is ever to come, as we do have a leftover depot, but I would say that she suits a DLC character more, as FLC characters do not get new units, and there's a few units that could work out very well for her. Next, of course, we have Gracia, a big character which we are pretty much expecting in Warhammer 3. I believe Creative Assembly even confirmed that too. A lovable little Gracia with a very strong connection to the winds of magic, so much so that his miscasts have been known to even summon bloodthirsters. Introduced a long time ago in Warhammer lore as a one-off villain and sort of comic relief, but became so incredibly popular that Games Workshop kept writing him into different stories. It seems that no matter what happens to this character, he always ends up surviving, though his bodyguard, Bone Ripper, has been replaced a numerous amount of times with, well, another Bone Ripper. He's even survived the end of the world, and is currently wreaking havoc around the Age of Sigmar. He just doesn't seem to fully die, and he's always been a very popular character. He's had some very interesting rules on the tabletop, and it's one of those characters that you're expecting to be very, very powerful, but also have a lot of drawbacks, at least if Creative Assembly follows the lore. While many people are fed up of the constant amount of Skaven love, I'm pretty sure that nobody would be against the introduction of the Gracia himself, but we're gonna have to wait and see whenever Creative Assembly decide to release the adorable little thing. Next, we have Bellacor, the first Demon Prince, and the only Demon Prince of Chaos Undivided, introduced into the lore many years ago, where he had gained the favor of all the Chaos Gods and was given boons equal of power from all of them. He was extremely powerful, but the problem was that his arrogance played against him, where he wished to rebel against them and become a god in his own right, which in theory could have been indeed possible, but it's the case that Bellacor himself is one of those typical trope villains, which, well, he fails a lot. It's very likely that Bellacor is the 9th legendary lord, which we still don't know anything about in Warhammer 3, as it does make sense to have a Chaos Undivided faction. This is the only demon of Chaos Undivided, so he would be the perfect leader. And by demon I mean the name character, of course, just in case anyone tries to correct me there. It's a character that many people have been waiting for, mainly because he could have a very interesting campaign, and if Creative Assembly want to go full ham with this could be the character himself that has a completely different campaign to the other 4 Chaos Gods and to Kislev and Cathay, as he could try and become a god in his own right, which kind of fits with the whole power of a dying god thing, but to serve his own means. It's just one of these things that could be really interesting if Creative Assembly want to go full ham. Though it's oddly strange that we have seen the Khorne roster and have not seen any Khornate Demon Princes, as it would be very strange if we had access to Bellacor but no Demon Princes whatsoever, unless we only get random undivided Demon Princes or something like that, unless Creative Assembly themselves are hiding off any Demon Prince reveals until Bellacor is shown off, which to me makes a lot of sense, because if we see one in the Khorne roster, then we'd already start expecting it for all the others and can easily pinpoint to Bellacor. But then again, I could be wrong here, as Creative Assembly have been super weird lately, so yeah. And finally, I am going to talk about Nagash, the Lord of Undeath himself, one of the most ancient characters in the Warhammer Fantasy universe, which has been hinted constantly throughout the series of games, mostly in Game 2, however, but it's one of these characters that has been hinted so much that I think the fanbase would be incredibly angry if he was never added in. Of course, it makes sense to add in his End Times character version, and yes, Creative Assembly said no End Times, but technically that stuff could have just been always in effect, the same thing as his units, they could have always existed in lore. It's one of these things where the timeline itself is very weird, and, well, let's face it, he's one of the biggest characters in the universe, he is well known by loads and loads of people, and he could bring in something really curious and interesting in terms of a new playstyle, as the End Times list for Nagash himself was focused around a mixture of Tomb Kings and Vampire Counts known as the Legions of Undeath, and it would be cool if it was a mix of Vampire Counts, Tomb Kings, and Vampire Coasts, because in the lore throughout the End Times, Nagash actually did make use of the Vampire Coast, recruiting them to his forces, and they were fairly active, mostly Luke's Verhaken though, but yeah. It would be cool if we saw a true hybrid faction with all forces linked up, which, yes, might be incredibly overpowered, but keep in mind that this is Nagash. You know, he is the literal Lord of Undeath, and he eventually does become a god in his own right, so this would be kind of cool. Now, these are of course some of the characters that many people have been asking for, but these are the ones that are the most popularly requested ones. There's loads of characters that, well, we should be able to expect. I myself am waiting for a character like Azazel, the Demon Prince of Slaanesh, but we're going to have to wait until DLC because I really doubt that he's going to be the character that's going to be leading the forces at the beginning. Are there any characters I might have missed? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. I'm rather curious to see what you guys are waiting for. I've not put them in any order, I've just gone through pretty much more or less what I've seen, but I'm curious to see what you guys think in terms of order and so on. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel has been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.